Ijeoma innocent, and these are the top stories. Boko Haram suspect arrested in plot to attack Atiku's residence and other facilities in Yola. INEC chairman blames cashless policy and fuel scarcity for 2023 election challenges. Lawyer Ozekome says Nnamdi Kanu was never in support of sit at home. Kill corruption, not Nigerians. Protesters hit the street in Edo State over hardship. On the foreign scene, Israel passes reform law despite mass protest. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 6 begins with the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar stating that 4 Boko Haram suspects sent to attack his residence and other places in Yola, Adamawa State, have been arrested by the Nigerian police and handed over to the military authorities. Atiku, in a statement through his media office, said he commended the Nigerian police for the work that they continue to do in this particular investigation. The spokesperson for the Adamawa State Police Command, Suleiman Nguroje, today revealed that operatives of the command yesterday arrested 2 suspected terrorists and handed them over to the military for further investigation. Upon further interrogation by the police, the suspect identified himself as a 29-year-old and confessed to being a Boko Haram member from Borno State. He also informed the police that he and his colleagues, who were also later arrested, intended to attack organizations associated with Atiku Abubakar and some other sensitive locations in Yola. Now joining me to discuss this and other issues on the World News at 6, we have Mr. Awa Omiko of the Sunday Editorial Desk. Good evening, Mr. Awa.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, sir. It's always great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Great. So, Mr. Omiko, we have, a development, and obviously this was something that happened yesterday. Boko Haram is now, from all indications, Boko Haram is now targeting Atiku Abubakar. And about 2 or 3 young men were sent to his residence, and according to them, they confessed to, being scouted to attack other organizations associated with him and other sensitive locations in Yola, that is the Adamawa State capital. Now, we know that Atiku, who is the PDP presidential candidate, is currently challenging President Tinubu's election at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal after losing to him in the February 25 presidential election. So what really could be happening with Atiku at this point? Sometime last year, during the heat, in the peak of the campaign, his convoy was attacked. Right now, he's at the tribunal. He is following legal due process. And, he is now would I say a target for Boko Haram. What really could be happening with him? Is he being, set up to be hurt, to be harmed? What do we call this?
Looking at it, you discover that there must have been a breach because Boko Haram often will not attack their leaders. But I believe from what is going on, there must have been a breach between this Boko Haram and Atiku. And come what may, it may not be too far-fetched to say that Atiku must have deviated from the agreement and maybe his preparedness to check their menace. Which, hello?
I'm with you, Mr. Omiko.
Maybe his preparedness to check their menace, especially when he was talking about the security apparatus of the state and how to check it. And then they believe that instead of Atiku for other utterances, and they believe that Atiku checking them may mean wiping them out of the system. And when I mean the system, I mean the supra holistic geographical location of Nigeria. And his plan to rejig the north and to make the youth and the energy and the resources of north to account for the betterness of the people. I think that is one of the reasons we could be looking at it from that angle, that it could be the cause of why Atiku is being attacked.
Is that to say that they actually see him coming out victorious at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal? Because how can he rejig the security apparatus of the North if he is not involved in the presidency?
Yeah, I can hear you again.
I said, is that to say that, these people, this militant, these terrorists, they are seeing him coming out victorious at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Because if he's talking about what he would do as president, right now he did not win the elections. He's in court. Is that to say that they are seeing him winning this tribunal case? And how can he rejig the security architecture of the North or any place in Nigeria if he is not a part of the presidency or the president himself?
And you discover that Atiku is very influential in the North. And you discover that his plan and trying to say this should come to an end. Let the North breathe. That alone is enough to arouse agitation and to arouse hatred between the Boko Haram and himself. So these are some of the things he has been advocating for. I think it's sort of old. It's not a figure of old that was saying, let whatever will be. But now he has looked back and begin to see the extent at which the Northerners are destroying their own self and wants to retreat from that. And how do you do it? You can see the way he has been doing by trying to set up organizations and his long handshake across the Niger and other areas. So they now begin to see him as a person that is not truly their son and wants to eliminate him. And if you can see, he stands up against their so-called northern elite. Big room for this to say, yes, this guy needs to be dealt with. Even if you look at the court cases, he's not even coming out victorious. He's still not, because he's not being loquacious about the whole thing. The person actually in the forefront of saying this stealing must stop. This political stealing, political rigging must stop. Was even Obi? I think it has been in the, not as vocal as loquacious as Obi, but did that because he is thinking of a new north and a new direction to flow. And not killing, makes the people to begin to see him as an enemy. And one thing with the North, with the characters in the North, if you are against their policy, it's assumed as if you hate everything about them. But they fail to realize that Atiku wants the better North to emerge. And that is why this attack is coming.
Okay,
and
Mr. Omiko, is that to say that this has purely no political undertones? It is just, these terrorists who are aiming to just get him out of the picture so that they can still have the North in their grasp?
It has political undertone. It will be very, very wrong to say it has political undertone. If you look at the northern elites, why they've been so silent about how to regime the North. The northern elites have been so silent. Therefore, apart from the time of the Sokoto Emirate, the Sultan of Sokoto, which other and the days of Uncle Waziri and Uncle Aminu, which other leader will you say from the North has been so loquacious and has been so outright to speak against the hegemony and the riotous and ill feelings of the North, other than Atiku? So these are some of the reasons why he's been put at the center for destruction.
At the end of the day, even though we can say that, this terrorism is a thriving business in the North, if he is trying to do something for their own good and for the good of the people, why do they want to take him out of the picture?
Mind you, their own good is not your good. The good of the people, there's no education. They say no education. And no formal westernized lifestyle. So if they could go back to the writings of Usman Dan Fodio and the powers before Usman Dan Fodio, Usman Dan Fodio was seriously Hello?
I'm with you, Mr. Omiko. I'm with you, sir.
If you go back to the writings of Usman Dan Fodio, Usman Dan Fodio advocated for Muslims to embrace the West and to embrace liberal studies. But other prophets after him did not do that. But Atiku, though not a prophet, but he's trying to take the people back to the writings of Usman Dan Fodio and things they should do to make sure that the North progresses, but yet it's not. And for this, they see it as a jihad that must be carried out, not only on him, but on people closer and very close to him. And that is why it has a political undertone. It goes beyond politics and religion. And you even see him as an front attacking APC because their son is the number 2 person. Why must that happen? They fail to realize that the man is talking about the well-being, about the political well-being of the country, and not about a person. It is their myopic understanding of what Atiku stands for that is even making them to attack him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omiko. Now, just before you go, let's quickly talk about this news item. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has said that the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the scarcity of fuel during the 2023 general elections, together with what he called the perennial insecurity nationwide, made its logistics management more challenging during the poll. The INEC chairman disclosed this today at a meeting of the members of the commission and civil society organizations on the review of the 2023 general elections at the commission's conference room in Abuja. He highlighted some positive areas, especially with the repeal and reenactment of the Electoral Act 2010 into the Electoral Act 2022, which introduced technology into the election management. Now, Mr. Omiko, the INEC chairman said that he regretted that apart from the impact of the cashless policy and the fuel scarcity, that the deployment of thugs by some political actors also made election day administration difficult in several places. Now, I have so many questions from this premise, from what he has surmised. First of all, if INEC wants to conduct an election, their logistics and how they will move on that day, the fuel they will need, every cash they will need to spend on that day, should it not have been prepared before that time? That even if the rest of the country is experiencing, cash scarcity, fuel scarcity, even if we are encountering some kind of difficulties in logistics, the INEC should have made their own arrangements before that time. Next, INEC has always insisted that the election was free and fair. But just here, the INEC chairman said that, the deployment of thugs by some political actors made election day administration difficult in several places. Is this not an admission that, okay, there were infractions in several places, which has been denied up to this point?
That shows the falsehood in the system. It shows the falsehood in the system. And it's gradually opening up. He knew what he did, and he knew what the cabal had wanted. But it's quite unfortunate. It was more or less a play of wit and wealth. It was a play of wit and wealth, and Tinubu has smarted them. If you are going for a national duty like that of election, you would have prepared ahead of time. The cash were there. How about the materials brought? Was it that day that material was brought? No. Those materials have been in the country and in the banks for God knows when. So what he's just giving us is a lamp excuses. It's just like a drowning man. The drowning man who's at the slightest stake. And this is what Mahmoud is trying to do. He's trying to launder his image to appear innocent when it's already found guilty. And when it's already found guilty by the public court, because the legal court has not found him guilty, but the public court of justice has found him guilty. That he connived and he double played as an umpire. And it is that face he's trying to clean, he's trying to wash away. But be that as it may, it was actually there's going to be cashless policy. And besides, being INEC, whatever thing he asks from the government will provide for him. So all those things he's saying, he just mere afterthought, which holds no water. And it is high time he comes out to speak the truth and apologize to Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omiko. You've actually answered a question I wanted to ask about. You are in the government and, you are close to the government and you're trying to do something. You are trying to prepare for an election that would impact the whole nation, because these were the general elections. If, the cash scarcity and the fuel scarcity did affect INEC, there are ways they could have actually gotten all that they need so that they will not have logistics problem, which takes me back to the question, of those logistics. Now, the INEC chairman coming out to say, oh, we had logistics problems because of, scarcity of cash and because of a scarcity of fuel. And also from the other side of the mount saying thugs were deployed. How come security agencies up until now have not identified these thugs, who put them out there, the people they attacked, and let us really know what is going on really in the aftermath of the elections, away from the tribunal trying to decide who really won. Right now, this whole issue of, since the INEC chairman has come out to say, oh, thugs did the attack and they were sponsored by political actors, the security agencies, have they really played their role in finding and prosecuting these political actors who put thugs out to attack innocent Nigerians who went out to cast their votes?
Yeah, you see, Mahmoud, as I said earlier on, Mahmoud is just now crying foul, just to make sure he wants to exonerate himself from the guilt and to launder his own image. President Mohamed Buhari gave him a free hand and asked and directed that whatever thing he wants, he should ask, and it shall be given to him so far as he gives a clean and fair election. So Mahmoud coming out to begin to talk about logistics is highly uncalled for. It's not being fair to his boss. It's highly uncalled for. And the security operatives connived. They are connived. They saw the level of rigging, the level of corruption, and the level of malpractices on that day, and they all looked the other way because they too were part of the game plan. You can even see that even some of the commissioners, a professor, it's not an easy to be a professor. Some of them must have spent 45 years in the academy to rise to that level. Yes, they couldn't pronounce simple figures because there was a play between their clear conscience and what they had before them. And because of that interplay between their clear conscience and what they had before them, they couldn't even add up figures, simple figures. They couldn't pronounce simple names. They couldn't have pronounced, make simple statements. That shows the level of involvement, the level of connivance, and the level at which corruption encroached into the political system to the extent they gulfed. So they need to tell Nigerians the truth. The level of telling us this and that has gone. Let them come out. History makers, bookmakers are waiting for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omiko. Now, just before you go, I would like to quickly engage you on this. The All Progressives Congress APC governorship candidate in the last governorship election in Adamawa State, Senator Aishatu Dahiru, today urged the Federal High Court in Abuja to allow the Election Petition Tribunal sitting in the state to deliver its judgment before the suspended resident electoral commissioner, Hudu Yunusa Ari, will be prosecuted. Now, she made the plea before Justice Donatus Okorowo through her counsel while adopting processes filed in respect of her suit. She has sued INEC, the IG of Police, and the Attorney General of the Federation as first to third respondent in her suit. She sought the interpretation of Section 144 of the Electoral Act and a preservative order, seeking the maintenance of status quo by parties, pending the hearing and determination of her suit. Now, Binani's lawyer is basing his argument on the grounds that if the INEC, the suspended INEC rec is prosecuted now, why Binani is still challenging INEC declaration of Ahmedu Fintiri of the PDP as Adamawa State governor, even after the rec had earlier declared her winner, that it would create a likelihood of bias in the decision of the tribunal. So she's asking the tribunal to halt the prosecution of the INEC rec because the tribunal has not made a decision in the suit that she brought against the PDP, governorship candidate who actually did win the election. Now, we know that this was actually was a popular and a controversial issue when she was announced winner, even while collation was still ongoing, and by the wrong person. And now she has come out with another demand. Is this really a demand, that we see being granted? How does it affect each other, the prosecution of the INEC rec and the Binani's, request before the tribunal?
You see, in this case, at times we just begin to wonder if actually those public office holders actually meant well for Nigeria. Election is still going on, and results was just announced. It means it was inconclusive. Even if it is clear, even if it is glaringly clear that the man they had declared as the winner is leading by far majority, and yet the one that is now petitioning the result is lagging behind by far minority. It is still not fair for such results to be declared because the election has not been concluded. And by so doing, we are making mess of our laws. This is why I said institutions should hold. That state result should be cancelled. There should be a rerun. That result should be cancelled. There should be a rerun. And until a rerun is done, there is no justice. Then it should be cancelled. Let the first person and let the tripod characters involved, let them be brought to the law. The INEC man should be jailed. And besides, it's because we take things for granted in this country. We take election petitions and election tribunals and election results and anything that has to do with the result, we handle them with levity, with a child's glove. And that is why things like this are happening. If they have been handled as somebody that is sabotaging the economy and political situation of this nation, all these tribunals will not be, all these characters will not be imagined. That INEC commissioner should be brought to book. And let INEC put in place a new commissioner there and let there be a rerun. And stop wasting the taxpayers' money on tribunals or no tribunal. Let it be clear and about that place. In a place where election is inconclusive or where the result of an election is tested or is being challenged and it is discovered that the person that INEC claim to have won did not really win. The Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution, I think Section 324, I'm not in the right mood to remember that now, states there should be a rerun. And the people with the highest and the person with the second highest should contest. It's not going to be a thing of everybody now, all the parties now contesting. But the characters, the party with the highest and the party with the second highest and those challenging, the few should rerun the election. If that is not done, it means there is no justice. Let us follow our laws. These tribunals knows what the law says, and they are looking for other ways to overcut it, to boycott it, because of their own interest too, which is the money they get sitting. And if that is not done, justice will still be far from the people. Thank you.
Thank you so dearly, Mr. Awa Omiko, for joining me on the World News at 6 this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. In another development, the incarcerated leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, has doubled down on his demand for the stoppage of recurrent sit-at-home exercises in the southeastern part of the country. Kanu spoke through one of his lawyers, Mike Ozekome, a senior advocate of Nigeria, in a video posted by Dan Nwome, the senior special assistant on media to Governor Peter Amba of Enugu State, on his Twitter handle today. According to the lawyer, Nnamdi Kanu said he does not believe in the sit-at-home, insisting that he could not be fighting for his people while shutting down down their economy. He re-echoed that Kano does not believe in the sit-at-home on Mondays as it cripples the social, economic, socio-cultural and the political life of the people, putting them under psychological, physical and mental stricture and torture. Elsewhere, civil society groups have flooded the major streets in Benin City, Edo State today to protest the recent increase in the price of petrol and nationwide hardship. The groups under the aegis of the Edo civil society organizations lamented the high cost of governance exhibited by politicians at the expense of poor Nigerians. According to them, the federal government ought to have provided palliatives that would cushion the pangs of fuel subsidy removal before implementation. You will recall that the NNPCL had last Tuesday increased the prices of petrol to about 617 naira per litre. Reacting, the protesters took to the streets in Edo State, carrying several placards bearing different captions, including "Federal government fix our refineries," "Kill corruption, not Nigerians," "Poor Nigerians' lives matters," we say no to constant increment in PMS. How did the NNPCL become fuel price regulators, and 8,000 naira palliatives? What an insult, amongst others. Now, on the foreign scene, Israeli MPs have passed into law a highly controversial bill despite mass protests which aimed to thwart it. The law removes the power of the Supreme Court to overrule government actions it considers unreasonable. It is the first to be approved in a series of bitterly contested reforms aimed at curbing the power of courts. The planned reforms have triggered some of the biggest protests in Israel's history, with opponents warning the imperial Israel as a democracy. In remarks to the parliament, opposition leader Yair Lapid called the step a takeover by an extreme minority over the Israeli majority. The vote brings to a head months of turmoil, with Israel's president warning political leaders today that the country was in a state of national emergency. And that's it on the world news at 6. Just before we wrap up, here a look at the top stories again. Boko Haram suspect arrested in a plot to attack Atiku's residence and other facilities in Yola. INEC chairman has blamed the cashless policy and the fuel scarcity for the 2023 poll challenges. Lawyer Ozekome says Nnamdi Kanu was never in support of the sit-at-home, and protesters hit the streets in Edo State over hardship. On the foreign scene, Israel passes reform law despite mass protests. And that is a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Ijeoma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. Good evening and thank you for listening.